How do, Steve? How do, guys? So I'm just going to show you this little bird box there, Union Jack bird box. These bird boxes are all over this wood and other curiosities that we come through every morning. Somebody obviously gone to the time to make them and then put them up. I've never seen anyone in this wood. There you go. Laddo. How we doing, guys? So it's been a quiet month for real porridge, as it were. Probably this is the 6th lot of content that I've posted. You know, we've had a month for the family, really. We're getting sorted now, we know where we're going. Literally after next week, I'm back on my bike. Get on your bike, Sambo. Interviewing people. I've got 6 pending for next month. Listen, guys, right, every video on the channel, in the description now there's an email. If you want to get in touch, that's the only way to get in touch with me. Get on it. I'll be popping over to Sheffield. Gonna do a few cultural vlogs, as it were, in and about Sheffield, where things have happened and where I used to live at one bit, Page Hall. Anyone from Sheffield, when I mention the word Page Hall, will probably recoil. It's like Beirut now, not literally being bombed, but it is a dangerous place to live. I will be interviewing a young lady, a very, very good friend. She doesn't know it yet, who actually lives down there. I actually lodged with her one bit. She's a very kind lass, and she's the lass who introduced me to working on the doors, becoming a bouncer. Stephen, let's walk this way. 30,000 subscribers. Thanks to everyone who's had anything to do with the channel. Real porridge, especially the people I've interviewed. Thanks to anyone who is now sponsoring me on Patreon. That is much appreciated. And anyone who's bought me a cup of tea too. Tomorrow I'm doing, as it were, a 30,000 special. I will be doing a vlog from Strangeways. A lot of you in this country probably never seen Strangeways in Manchester, and certainly people from afar. So yeah, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to walk around the outside of Strangeways and vlog and tell you some stories and point out some of the places I used to work and things that happened. So today, this is for a young officer who has asked me a question, so I said I'd get out today and vlog it. Basically wants to know whether he's a coward. You know, he says I've been involved in a few incidents. One of them, I was unsure how to react, how to support my colleagues. And, you know, I'm sort of thinking that I'm not cut out for this job. Right, adrenaline. Let's talk about adrenaline. First of all, from what you tell me, very young, inexperienced, probably haven't seen any violence in your life. There's lots of people like you in the prison service. These older people I work with who've never seen no violence. I saw a lot of people who bottled it. Having bottled, he's been able to stand up to people, to front people. Let me just give this lad his ball. Stephen, sit down. Steady, steady. Go on then, lad. A lot of people I work with didn't have bottle. It's a bone of contention, that, you know. I remember one of my friends talking about someone, and I said they got no bottle, and they said everyone's got bottle doing that job. They haven't, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Did I spend time in incidents with my arse cheeks squeezed together? Yes, I did. Was I ever at the forefront of incidents? Yes, I was. Oh, he's happy that. He's easily pleased. Yes, I did. Yes, I was. You know, having bottle is not a prerequisite of a prison officer. I work with some fantastic people who would, as it were, follow you into battle, but not lead you. Being a coward, dealing with, this way Stevie, dealing with adrenaline, you know, as a young lad playing rugby, I was almost physically sick before every game. You know, there was a lad I played with who was physically sick before every game. Learning to deal with adrenaline, that dump, fight or flight. Somebody pointed out, thanks for the comment, somebody who spent some time, I think it was Crumlin Road prison. If I've got that wrong, apologies, in Ireland. Or there is a prison on Crumlin Road. And it was a long comment. I have read it a couple of times, and he was saying basically with fight or flight, you know, adrenaline reaction when you're in prison to things. He says fight or flight didn't apply, Sam. He says I had to learn to fight. You know, in Irish prisons there are political movements. If you are at the wrong end, if you're in the wrong movement and you're confronted by other people, he says there was no flight, there was no running off, you had to fight every day. He says staff, it was the same, you know, it was constant and endless threats. A lot of people in prison, you know, that you're putting behind the doors, a lot of lads have grown up with violence, they've grown up in violent areas. You know, they might not be the hardest man on the planet, but they're used to being around violence. And some of them are tough. You know, many of them are the hardest man on the planet at that time. Again, and there's nothing wrong with this, a lot of prison officers aren't fighters, can't fight. You know, actual prison officers who, you know, will probably stand toe to toe with anyone and were real fighters, you know, a street fighter, few and far between. But you don't have to be a street fighter. What you do have to do is support your colleagues, whatever that means. I'll give you, for instance, if you're with a colleague who's in an altercation, yeah, that's not going well, you keep your eyes on them. There should be alarm bells everywhere. I know staffing is short, but at times, you know, you might have to be the person pressing that alarm bell. This way, Stevie. Where's your ball? Go and fetch it. Go not that way. Wow, he's supposed to be an intelligent gun dog. Stevie. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. So I worked with two of the longest serving prison officers at Strangeways. When I say work with them, we worked in the same department. Yeah, the third longest serving, I believe at that time, there was a lot of staff that were of, you know, a similar time in. The third one had been an alcoholic all his prison career, yeah, which, you know, it is an addiction. I'm not saying that. However, as a prison officer, he was the laziest person I had ever met. He never once helped anyone. He acted that role and played that role well, and he was never asked by anyone to do anything because people knew he wouldn't do it. One of the other lads was not a bad officer, what I call middle of the road. He was definitely old school though. You know, me and him come to blows, not blows literally, but had a falling out over an incident on the healthcare when I worked there. A prison officer was bullying a vulnerable prisoner. I brought that to management's attention. It was investigated and he weren't happy. He told me in so many words, you know, we don't do that. I knew what he meant. I questioned him about it and there was a period of hostility between us. You know, it was blatant and disgusting. Stevie, bullying. And I was having none of it. And he was all for that. Right, Stephen, I feel he's in a relationship now. Hello, come here then. Hello, what you up to, eh? There you go. You all right, love? Come on, you come this way, you. Oh, he's terrible, him. Come on then. Oh, is he? That's Stephen and Archie, they met before. Stevie, come on. Yeah, so he weren't a bad officer, but definitely, you know, I was a grass being involved in that investigation. It was appalling what the officer was doing. However, we come to the third officer and he was a coward. Yeah, not because he had no bottle, not because of his age. He refused to accept or refused to acknowledge any incident. On the healthcare, working on the healthcare, there was always potential there. Some very dangerous lads, a lot of people mentally unwell. And this lad, I say lad, he was older than me, point blank refused to acknowledge anything that was happening. I'll give you, for instance, I was in the association room, so that's a room on healthcare, TV, pool. You used to try and get the lads out as much as possible on there. We had no prison managers at that time, so you know, you're your own man. Me, I'd get people out as much as I could. They were unwell, a lot of them lads. They were patients on there. Here we go, Stevie. You have a little lie down. I'm losing my track now, lad. What was it? Right. I became aware that three characters, shall we say, let me tell you, all three of these lads I knew well. One of them had been a young offender at Forest Bank. One of them and his brothers were in and out of Strangeways regular and had been over lives. They were addicts. And then the third one, I'd known who he was, but he was on healthcare. He had had a bit of a breakdown. So I came to know him a lot better. All three lads on their own were a handful, trust me. You know, if there'd have been me and two other staff my size, all three lads, if they kicked off, would have been a handful. This guy sat down, the officer coward, reading a book. These three lads were basically snorting Subutex. Subutex, some people are given as an alternative to methadone in prison. It works a similar way, I believe. People will know that it's placed under the tongue to dissolve. They were snorting it, you get high off it or whatever. I lost my shit. Three lads in association, snorting subbies. So I challenged them. All three stood up, told they were an handful. The healthcare assistant, yeah, she was a good lass. She moved over to the general alarm, yeah, with her finger ready to press it. This officer Coward, 35 years plus when he left, had never come out of his book. Anyway, these lads, dynamic security, staff prisoner relationships, I knew them well. They respected me. I will say that now, they did respect me, you know, for who I was and how I treated. Although they protested, all three left the association room and I placed them behind their doors, giving them a telling off. Yeah, staff prisoner relationships. He never moved. When I walked back in association, because I'd left him, the healthcare assistant and some other lads, yeah, he's still got his head in the book. The healthcare assistant chewed his ear off. You know, why didn't you support Mr. Samworth? I didn't need him to come and challenge them lads. You know, if he'd have done same as her when she was stood next to the alarm bell, or if he'd have put himself out of harm's way next to her, I'd have been okay with that. But no, nothing. You know, what's happened? What's happening, that sort of thing. That happened a lot of times. We had a lad on healthcare off Salford Precinct. He was a big unit, proper scary. He scared me. Yeah, twice my size. Again, he came onto healthcare. He'd never been on healthcare before. He was always alcohol and drugs. He'd always been on the detox wing, but he came on healthcare. He was incredibly unwell. And eventually went to Prestige Hospital, and I have seen him since, out and about, and I know he's well. But at that time, he needed some support, the sort of support you will get in a psychiatric, forensic mental health ward. Yeah, so me and him were in conflict from when he landed on the healthcare. He was a big lad. He scared everyone, particularly the nursing staff. You know, when you were dealing with him, I would put myself between anybody and him. He assaulted me quite badly through the hatch when I was talking to him, passing him some medication. You know, he did draw blood, and he also gave me a plate full of hot food. Thank you, Miss Bradbury. Yeah, this is he who tells you never take your eye off the ball. One dinner time, I'm passing his meal behind his door. He was on an unlocked protocol. He only came out on his own and he was dangerous. I took my eye off the ball, passed him his food. Miss Bradbury said something along the lines, does he want some duff? Mr. Samworth, duff is pudding. I've never heard it called duff before. In prison, it's duff and custard. Yeah, took my eye off the ball, bam, hot food straight in my face. Anyway, Officer Coward, he wasn't the first prisoner to tell me this, but he spoke to me at some point and said, Mr. Samworth, I want you to be really careful of that officer. I said, why is that? He says he's told me to complain about how you treat me and speak to me. I said, has he? He says he has. I said, and what did you say? He said, you know, I'm a big lad. People are scared of me. Mr. Samworth is obviously a conscientious officer, yeah, and he looks after people. I said, well, I appreciate that. From that point on, incidentally, me and the big lad, until he went away, got on really well. Staff-prisoner relationships, yeah. He eventually finished his 35 plus years. It was probably 37, 38. I believe he got the sack or he put his notice in because there was an incident on camera. The back of his head, you could see the back of the head. We had two lads who we had to split up eventually on healthcare. They were both patients. They assaulted another lad who'd done nothing wrong. One punched him, the other threw hot water at him. Thankfully, the hot water didn't harm him. He too was a patient and he'd done nothing wrong. These lads were gearing up to be bullies, but on camera you can see the officer and it happened right in front of him. He walks away and does nothing and says nothing. When it went in front of the governor, he walked out and handed his notice in. He was a coward. He never ever supported anyone. So if you're still with me, guys, yeah, you will come or be involved in situations where you are scared. That don't make you a coward. If you feel you will have been told in training, unsafe, put yourself in a safe place, which might be a sterile area away from the landing and away from your mates who might be in bother, that's up to you. For me, as a prison officer, you know, you have to support your mates. That's it, end of. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Vlog at Strangeways tomorrow. Next month, back at it. Some longer content at weekends. I've got interesting people to interview. If you want to get in touch, please go to the channel, click on any video, and email is in the description. Okay, parting shot as always. Thanks again for all these. Stevie? What are you up to, you lad? Good lad. I'll see thee.